The Red Sox have been linked to Alex Bregman, Corbin Burnes, and Tanner Scott. All of these are big-name free agents, and the Red Sox just made their big move for Garrett Crochet, and fans are now waiting for the next move. So, I'm here to talk about what's going to be happening, and could these three players be coming to the Boston Red Sox, all based off of the source that I'm about to share. But hello, everyone. I'm Evan Sharrard. Welcome to Red Sox Digest. Thank you all for 1,000 subscribers. It has been a long road, although it hasn't been even a year at this point between Houston and I. A lot of days where we've had to fill in, see where we can throw up videos and look and find all of our latest news. So thank you all for supporting the channel. It means the world to us. And thank you all, and subscribe if you're not subscribed already to stay up to date on all the latest Red Sox offseason news that we'll be covering every game next season. It should be a whole lot of fun. So thank you for joining me. And now let's get right to that post that I was talking about. So this is what brought on, well, those are stats we'll get to, but this is the post that brought on why I want to talk about this today, is because Red Sox Stats, which is a pretty well-regarded X account, still used to Twitter, said that between Burnes, Bregman, and Tanner Scott, the Red Sox could split $75 million between all of them, average annual value, meaning that they could spend roughly $75 million total per season on these three players, and they'd only have a $4 million tax bill, which would be pretty good because that would be above the luxury tax. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about this because kind of a slow news day for the Red Sox, but this is interesting because I want to see, granted, are the Red Sox going to go and get all of these players? We'll see as more news breaks, but is this possible? And would the Red Sox be willing to do this? I just kind of want to break down some numbers, look at their stats to see generally what they're going to be worth based on some Spotrac numbers, etc. So let's get into some of that. I want to take a look at some of these screenshots here. So first, I'm going to bring this up in big. These are the top 10 highest paid pitchers, starting pitchers in Major League Baseball right now. So you see Ohtani way up there at 70, and Corbin Burnes is not going to come close to touching that. Zach Wheeler paid $42 million average annual value, and then the rest of these names are here as well. So to me, based on what I'm looking at, we're seeing 4 or 5 pitchers over $30 million. I expect Corbin Burnes to get over $30 million. So immediately, I think that you could look at the 5 pitchers from 6 to 10, and all but maybe 2 of them, you would look at Corbin Burnes. I look at Corbin Burnes and say, Corbin Burnes is the better pitcher here throughout his career. Glasnow, Fried, and Yamamoto are really the 3 that I'd think about, but Yamamoto's only been in the majors for 1 year. He was up and down, injured for a big portion of the year, so you can't give it to him. Max Fried's really the one guy that I think is like, okay, he's making $27 million, but Fried hasn't had the Cy Young year yet. Corbin Burnes has. He's won a Cy Young award, and we'll get to that. So I think that he's above Fried here, and he's above Glasnow, who hasn't been able to do it consistently until last season, and injuries hampered his season, but he was the best pitcher in baseball for a strong point. So, Glasnow, maybe a bargain at $27 million, if you can even call it that, but these guys above from 5 to 1, especially Blake Snell getting $36.4 per year, I think that's going to be a really good sign for Corbin Burnes' team, and as in his agency and him. I think he's going to get around that. I think he's had a better career than Blake Snell in terms of consistency. Now, Snell was among the top in all of baseball up until he left the Rays and had that last season before. And it's tough to see, okay, so Corbin Burnes is probably going to take around $36 million. That's where I would place it. I think that's probably what he'll get. I think it's looking at Zach Wheeler being all the way up there at $42 million. That is the one piece that might make me go, okay, will a team pay Corbin Burnes that much money if they really want him and get into a bidding war? I think absolutely, because if Wheeler was worth it then, and Wheeler's a great ace pitcher, but Burnes might be even better. And I think his stats do say that. So I wanted to take a look at that before we get into talking about Corbin Burnes. Then I wanted to take a look at the third baseman numbers, because Alex Bregman is listed as a third baseman. That's where he's played primarily throughout his career. The rumors with the Red Sox are talking about him moving to second base, But I want to talk about the third baseman contracts just so we can get an idea, again, same thing with the pitchers, of how much money could he reasonably get if he's using past players as evidence when they sign contracts. So Rendon in that mammoth contract at $35 million per year, right when he left the Nationals, he's locked up there. He hasn't been nearly the same player he was when he was in Washington. Lots of injuries have plagued him, etc. Nolan Arenado here aging up at $32.5 million, and he was worth every penny when they paid him that. And when he's at his best, he still is. Arenado had a down season, but his early winter time in 2024 was unbelievable in the World Baseball Classic. He and Trey Turner for Team USA were incredible, if you could say that even any less creatively. But Manny Machado up there at 31.8. That's another really good player who deserves the money he's getting. Devers is extended for life in Boston, 31.3. I think all four of those guys, well, really three besides the top number one, are worthy of that kind of money. And I think Matt Chapman there at $25 million in San Francisco. Seeing Chapman and then Riley down there, and he signed a long-term extension. Jose Ramirez is a bargain here at $20 million, and then the rest of these names, besides Ryan McMahon, are not really moving the needle. DJ LeMahieu's time has likely passed. Anything can happen, but his prime is likely over unless he pulls out something crazy. Ryan McMahon's future is still ahead of him, so he's an elite defender in Colorado, occasionally an exceptional power bat with some ability to hit for contact as well. He's a great player, but he hasn't reached free agency yet. Ramirez got that $20 million a while ago, and then Austin Riley got that $21 million extension just kind of to build the Braves the way that they are. But I think that reasonably Alex Bregman might fit either just above Matt Chapman or just below him. That's really the needle for me, because Matt Chapman at one point was, with Nolan Arenado, those were the two best third baseman in all of baseball. And then Chapman's offensive numbers really slouched, but his defense was still platinum glove level. So Arenado stayed up here and Chapman really drooped because his offensive ability just wasn't the same. And it's kind of gone back and forth. But he got $25 million despite the fact that his offense hasn't grown as much as I think a lot of Matt Chapman lovers would have hoped. So I would be confident in thinking that Bregman fits near that 30 million range, just probably around 27 million, but 30 million wouldn't be out of the question, I don't think, especially if there's a bidding war. Again, those are the big things. When you get to free agency and people are overpaying for players, it's because they have to outbid other teams. So there's that in terms of Bregman. We're going to get to the stats. Then here are the relievers. The top 10 here, and there's a lot of ties here for 7th. The top 5, I'd say, Taijuan Walker is considered a reliever. He was paid starter money, so forgive his position here. He's not a closer. A lot of these guys are closers, like Diaz, yeah, and Kenta Maeda's in here as well. He's a starter that moved to the bullpen. So Edwin Diaz, Josh Hader, Ryan Presley, Raisel Iglesias, Blake Trinan, Jordan Hicks, kind of back and forth. Robert Stevenson is definitely a reliever. And then Taylor Rogers and Aroldis Chapman. I don't know where Tanner Scott will fall in here. I think he's below Diaz and Hader. But I don't know how much less than Hader he's going to get. He might fit around that $15 to $18 million mark. So if we're using that math, that's roughly 36-ish million for Corbin Burnes, plus possibly 30 million. Like if we're going on the high end, let's say 40 million for Burnes, which would be incredible. Burnes is 40 and then Bregman's 30. Like that's, again, the high end. All right, 35, which would be, I think, I don't think the Red Sox would pay that. They're not going to overpay. They're not going to pay more for Bregman than they would for Devers, I don't think. But if they did, let's say they do, Bregman gets 35, Burnes gets 40, well, there's 75 million right there. So within reason that this post says, sure, but I don't think that will happen. because I think Scott's going to definitely get over 10 million, especially if the Red Sox just gave Chapman 11 per year. So I'm thinking you go the low end, Burnes settles for 30, which would be low, I think. And then Bregman settles for 25. Now you're looking at 55 million. And then you have more room and you can sign Tanner Scott. So I could see these things happening if there's some convincing here. Like, you're going to take, you should take less money. Do you want to take less money so we can go and get more players? That could happen. But there are no guarantees in there. So possibilities. And now what I think would really realistically be the contracts based on the players we just broke down, I would say Burnes is going to be getting around 36-ish million. I'll bring him back up just for relevancy here. I'd say Burnes around 36 to 37. And then we would be placing Bregman around 27 million, maybe 25. You could look at Matt Chapman. But the offensive production Bregman's had has been at an above average to elite level for pretty much his entire career. And then Tanner Scott would be getting better money than Aroldis Chapman will be, especially since Chapman's pretty much nearing the twilight of his career, and all these other guys above that are actual relievers are pretty close to elite. Ryan Presley's been on and off. So that way, I think you say, all right, 36 plus 28, 36 plus 28, you're in the 60 million range. You're 13-ish, maybe if you get lucky for Tanner Scott. If he looks at the team and goes, yeah, I want to go there, then sure. Tanner Scott would have to be the last pin to move, though, of all those players. But now, after all that, let's take a look at the stats. We see for Tanner Scott, an elite year last year, having a 2.52 ERA plus is unbelievable. And he's done this for a couple of years now and had shown that back in 2020. And then, of course, we have Alex Bregman, who's been an above average major league batter his entire career, actually. All of those OPS pluses are above 100, and 100 is average in Major League Baseball. He's also had seasons where he led the league in walks and in WAR. He has been a power bat from third base and would play really well with Fenway's Green Monster. And hey, he just won a Gold Glove, which is pretty incredible, especially when the Red Sox need to improve their their infield defense. Almost broke into football there. And then lastly, I don't know how many people would really need to see this, but we're finding it. Let's see. Where are we? There it is. The stats for Corbin Burnes. He's a Cy Young winner. He led the league in strikeouts 1 year, struck out 200 batters 3 times, nearly did it this season. He's been healthy. He does not get injured. He's nearly pitched 200 innings 4 times. Granted, the 2 seasons most recently are much closer than the 1 4 seasons ago, but Corbin Burnes is an elite starter, and pretty much besides 2019, he's been that guy. He's never shown any drawback seasons, so those are generally my takeaways here. Do I think this will happen? I'm going to say no. Do I think the Red Sox will get one of these guys? If they want to, absolutely. They've got the capital to do it right now. I think there's a lot of momentum moving towards making another big move after getting Garrett Crochet and really building up and saying, all right, here we go. But who will it be? I'm not fully sure. I know that there have been reports about Bregman interest from some people in the Red Sox organization, and then others saying, we don't really like the fit. So we'll see what happens. That's what I got for you today. Thank you all for watching. I'm Evan Sharrard saying so long.